I slow down on whoredom. Slow down on it a little bit.
Whoredom.
Just a little bit. Not a whole lot.
Whoredom.
But just a little bit.
You don't want to say that too fast. Because
Right.
it sounds like you're saying whoredom. Hoard
Right.
them out.
I don't want you to hoard them. What we're talking about is
Hoard.
Right.
So it's an actual word, guys.
So over the past several
The process of whoring.
Yes, you understand. Yes, folks.
I get it.
You're right there.
I'm right with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to your two favorite facially blessed individuals. That's right, folks. The Two Beauty Preachers. We are here, and we are aiming to misbehave on this wonderful evening. My name is Justin, and this right here is my good buddy Martin. Martin, say hello to all of our friends.
Hello, friends.
The Bearded Nation is in full effect, and we're going to have a little bit of fun tonight. Hey, Martin, I got a quote for you. For you.
Bring it.
What do you think about this? So, I was listening to Spotify on Tuesday.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't know what it was. I don't know why. It was in my daily mix.
Okay.
The daily mix thing. And it's based off what I listen to. And I don't really listen to this stuff. But apparently it popped up anyways.
Don't listen to what stuff?
This type of music, like hip-hop type stuff.
Oh, did you get some Show Baraka?
No, I did not get some Show Baraka. But I heard that guy is a interesting feller. Some Show Baraka.
All the songs that I've listened to, I've enjoyed. But apparently he says, penis. So...
Is penis a bad word?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that one's legit, because there's 5 letters in it and not 4. So it should be okay.
Yeah.
Right? That's the rule? What's the Spotify quote?
Okay, so it's basically like this song, but it's like a preaching, in a sense, or a motivational speaker.
Okay.
That's telling a story over music. That's basically what it is. It's almost like the, Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream type thing over music. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy is talking about success.
Oh, you could make some of those. You could make some motivational speeches and have music behind it. You could do that for Facebook. Yeah. I
probably could. I should.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
It'd be great.
But so this one was all on success, and we've been talking. We started talking a little bit about this prior to the show, and we'll talk about it probably some more here in a second. But this I guess the story goes is there was this young man who was asking a successful individual, somebody that he considers successful, how do you succeed in life, or how do you become a success? And the guy said, "Meet me at the beach 9 a.m. tomorrow morning." And the guy shows up in a suit and tie. The young guy shows up in a suit and tie. Probably should have wore a bathing suit because he's going to the beach, okay? Which, hey, but whatever. So he goes, and the guy looks at me. He says, "Go ahead and go get in the water." And the guy goes down to like his knees and goes, "Go out further." And he goes out further up to his like waist, and then he says, "Go out further." And he gets up to where it's like past his chest, like up by his neck, and he's in a suit and tie and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And the guy yells at him while he's out in the water. He says, and this is the quote, he says, "When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you will succeed."
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it sounds like all the same motivational nonsense that you hear wherever.
I was thinking that too.
I prefer demotivation. So I want to de-incentivize people in their activities. You know what I mean? Everyone's out there trying. Yeah, demotivate. Everyone's out there trying to motivate, but if you want to differentiate yourself from the crowd, you got to demotivate. Let's bring everybody down instead. Instead of trying to pump them up and get them all excited, tell them that they can do anything they want. Let's tell them the truth. It's like, nah, you can't do anything that you want. The vast majority of people are, just not good at stuff, and they just sort of fumble around in their lives and in their relationships and in their work and in everything that they're trying to do. And happiness is ever so fleeting. You just went through Ecclesiastes. You know how it goes. So.
Yeah. Let me go. Here, I got one for you. How about this one?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
This is a demotivational type poster after I searched demotivators. All right. Get to work. You aren't being paid to believe in the power of your dreams.
It's the motivational mindset. I mean, it's all over social media and everything. All that, hyper positive. Let's try and feel good. Why do you think everybody looks at that? Why do you think they look at it? It's because in reality, they recognize, oh man, I don't feel like I'm living my dreams right now. I don't feel like I'm being my best self. I don't feel like I'm accomplishing everything that I'm supposed to be accomplishing. Because it's the whole Fight Club scenario. We were raised being told that we can be rock stars and athletes and superstars, astronauts and presidents, but we're realizing that that's not true as we get older, and we're angry about it. And the motivational stuff just sort of helps us to subdue that anger a little bit so we don't go around trying to blow up all the credit records of the West. At the end of Fight Club.
Yeah. Okay. So, I get it. Just way to go ahead and spoil the ending for people that haven't watched it. Good job, Martin.
Oh, hey, if you don't know by now, Cornelius is Tyler Durden. I mean,
oh my gosh,
same guy.
I can't believe you let that one out.
Oh, let it slip. Oh, Bruce Willis was dead the whole time.
You didn't even yell out "spoiler alert" before saying that, Martin.
When did Fight Club come out? In like '96. When did the book come out? Even before that, craziness, man. Yeah. If you don't know by now, there's something wrong with you. That's not my fault that there's something wrong with you. Fight Club.
How about this? Yeah,
I like that movie.
I got one for you. Ready?
Okay.
Here's one of these demotivational posters. College, where you'll spend 4 years and $200,000 to learn that not all knowledge is useful.
Some people need to learn that lesson, man. It's you need to figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm with you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
When people ask me advice now, I talk to people and they might be saying something about wanting to go into ministry or that sort of thing, and they're like, "Oh, you think I should go to Bible college?" I tell them they need to go and learn how to weld. You always need a welder, man. Right? I mean, someone needs to put two pieces of metal together. Always going to need that. Go learn how to weld first, then go to Bible college or whatever. I wish I would have done that. I really do. Because I don't know how to weld, but if I did, I could always have a job.
When somebody asks me if they think they should go to Bible college, you know what I tell them? I say, what about going to regular college? That's what I say.
Well,
maybe regular college. What do you think about regular college? But what about Bible college? Have you thought about regular college?
What about nursing school? There's always going to be some sick folks, right? Yeah. Dana did it backwards. He went to Bible college and then he went to nursing school. Probably should have done that the other way around. Nursing school, then Bible college. But now he's got a skill set where he'll always have a job. And we got to... Well, did you ever listen to The Ordinary Pastor?
No.
No? You should listen to that sometime, man, because a lot of those guys are bivocational, and that's the future of Christian ministry. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. In 20 years, if our society continues on the pace that it's going now, you're just not going to be able to afford to pay a vocational minister full-time salary. I mean, this is just not going to happen unless you are the big church or in an isolated community such as myself. I might be able to slide through.
Which is why Martin and I are working on our second job, which is this podcast. And right now,
that's right.
It's not paying anything, but in 20 years, just saying.
You never can tell. Right. It could.
Okay, I got another one for you. One. Demotivational. Ready?
Demotivation.
It's a picture of Charlie Sheen. And it says, Charlie Sheen, still 42% more sane than Tom Cruise. I don't know what that even means. I don't know.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. What are you better off getting involved in? Scientology or cocaine and hookers? Which is the superior vice? That's a hard one to answer, man. I don't know. Do you need to be motivated? Do you feel like you need to be prompted to be excited about the things that you're doing? Is that like something you gotta have?
No. Not anymore. I used to live for that kind of stuff and everything, and not anymore. I feel pretty motivated without having to be motivated.
Maybe that's just kid stuff. Is that just kid stuff?
Yeah, well, and all right, so here's
we're middle-aged now.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Like, there's like in ministry, all right, let's say that's a church, okay? In ministry, big difference between a 70-year-old minister and a 26-year-old minister.
Yeah.
Like, 26-year-old minister is all like, it's just, it's like very driven in a sense, very passionate, and very, just like, we gotta do this, we gotta change, we gotta reach out to this group, we gotta figure out how to do this. It's a very go get it type thing for the most part. I mean, there's some of them that are like, like there's some 26-year-olds in ministry right now that are like, hey, I really don't want to do a whole lot, and I still kind of want to live in my mom's basement, and eat pizza all the time, and not doing. But it's a whole nother thing. But for the most part, we're just gonna say that 26-year-olds in ministry that are made that commitment, they're pretty driven. They want to reach out to people.
Yeah.
70-year-old in ministry, so like a 70-year-old like minister, kind of like probably gonna die soon. Like it's just kind of different phase
pace
of life. Different pace, different phase. I think it's really hard for them to connect, and so.
Really? You think so?
I think it can be, yeah.
Because
I connect. I'm just fine with anybody and everybody. I connect with. I'm very easygoing, but it might be because I'm a middle-aged man,
Yeah. You're right in that thick part of the bell curve where
I'm in my prime. I feel like I'm in my prime, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, well, somebody said the 40s are for ministry your prime, and I'm banking on that as well. Totally banking on that, man. But no, like for example, I get along real well with older guys that are in ministry. I can sit and talk with them. No problem at all. And younger guys that are passionate and driven in ministry, I have no problem. The only thing I have a problem with are young, lazy people. Like, I have a real bad problem with that. Like, I want to punch them all in the throat. And that's not me being violent. That's me being like, hey.
Motivational?
Yeah, it's me being motivational. It's me like, hey, listen, if you want to succeed, the only time you can succeed is when you want to succeed like you want to breathe. What's that quote again? Is that, like, I want to punch him in the throat. Like, hey, can you breathe? No. Well, then this is just what not succeeding is like. Is that right? Is that right? No, wait. Here it is. When you want to succeed, this is what I want to do. I want to punch them in the throat to where they can't breathe. And then say, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you will succeed. Which is not necessarily true.
And they're just sitting there with their hands on their neck like...
because that could kill a person.
Them. Yeah.
You just throw punch and that could kill them. So the chances have just gone down of them succeeding.
Yeah.
From that right after immediately that throat punch, or having a guy swim out in the middle of the ocean wearing a 3-piece suit. I'm just saying, chances are just got lowered on your chances of succeeding.
The whole idea, particularly when you look at it from the perspective of ministry, the whole idea that success in ministry is based upon your individual effort is, I think, fundamentally opposed to what we learned in Scripture about God and the nature of man and all that sort of stuff. The effort that you pour into it, it's not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. Right? I mean, it's the Lord accomplishes His purposes in the ways that He chooses to, and sometimes that's going to be through your hard work and effort, and sometimes it'll be through providential means that you are unaware of, and they're just sort of they happen and you don't know why, and you have to be comfortable with that ignorance of not knowing how these things are coming about. You have to and that's challenging, because you could sit back and you could read all the church growth literature and Pretty much, if you read one or two of those, you got the gist of all of them, because I've read a whole bunch of church growth books and that sort of stuff, and they all pretty much say the same thing. Be professional, do things that are effective for you and your context. Don't waste your time on things that don't work. Chase off all the people who disagree with you. That's pretty much what they say. They say it a little nicer than that.
They don't say
but that's what
that.
they say. They do say that. They say be the leader and don't worry. Don't worry about the people who don't come on board. The losses are acceptable. You remember that?
Yeah.
That's
blessed subtraction.
Blessed, yeah, all that sort of stuff. They say go ahead and do it. And you know what? Maybe there's a sense in which that's true, because there will be people who want to hold on to various traditions and various methodologies and all that sort of stuff that maybe they work and maybe they don't, or whatever. And, maybe those people do need to go to another church or whatever. But I don't think that should be an aim that you have in church work. It's like, I need to shake these people. That seems counterproductive. I would think that that success in Christian ministry, we shouldn't think about it in terms of how a business identifies success, but rather success in ministry should be understood in terms of success in marriage. So, how do you know you're having a successful marriage?
How do I know if I'm having a successful marriage?
Yeah, you're having a successful marriage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know? What criteria do you use to know that you're having a successful marriage?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think you can use some of these criteria, but like we just started in our core group tonight, started a marriage series, and talking about marriage and everything. So, but like Faye and I talk about it all the time about because we talk about like our marriage, like, hey, what's going on? We talk about, how we communicate constantly about everything. And I think that, that's how, for me personally, how do you tell if you're having a successful marriage? Like, it has to do, ultimately, starts with that. Like, if you're able to communicate easily to your spouse, and you can talk openly with her or him about anything, and like you can say, like, for example, Faye and I can say things that most people might have to argue about, that it might put them into an argument, and for us, it's not always an argument. Sometimes it is, but not always, because we're communicating. We talk to each other, everything's open. You're ready for this? I'll say it this way. We genuinely enjoy being around each other.
Oh, okay.
Like we enjoy being with each other. There is this illustration used in the study tonight, and the guy said that there was an old NFL football player, and he was traveling with about 7 other men, and he goes, he asked all the guys, he goes, hey, how many of your wives would say that they love you? And all of them raised their hand. And he goes, how many of your wives would say they like you? And none of them raised their hand. And so I think that's part of it too. Like, we enjoy each other. We enjoy each other's company. We enjoy being with each other. We enjoy doing stuff together. Like, it's not a chore,
Okay.
It's not like and this was said in our group tonight. It's like, it's not an obligation, but when you really love somebody and you want to be with them, then you feel obligated to love them and do things with them, but it's not because you feel obligated, it's because you love them. So I think when it comes down to it, I was like, we enjoy being around each other and being with each other. And I think that's a huge thing. And I think, it can be said part of it in church as well,
Yeah. Well, the church is the bride of Christ.
Yeah.
So, if you want to have successful church, what are you going to be, like, you as a minister, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be leading your congregation to be growing in love and growing in familiarity and growing in communication and growing in closeness and intimacy with Christ. That's what you'll be having them do. And as you're, and the way that looks in different places is going to be different, right? So that's going to look different in St. Cloud than it does here in Glenville. And that'll look different in, Metro Orlando or New York City or Timbuktu or wherever else you are. But the idea remains constant. If the church is the bride of Christ, then we ought to be growing in love and growing in affection and growing in communication, growing in relationship with our groom, which is Christ.
Yeah.
So I think then you're looking at fellowship and the apostles' teaching and breaking the bread and prayer, all that stuff that they did in the second chapter of Acts there. You would be doing those things. And not necessarily all the I don't think you measure your success by your bounce rate of your guests, by your
bounce rate?
Yeah, your bounce rate. Your bounce rate are the number of visitors that you have that don't stick. They come
whether you're
bounce.
Retaining. Oh, you're retaining.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Your retention level. So if you have a high bounce rate for first time guests, then you're going to be looking at things in terms of like customer acquisition. Right. And and a lot of churches will do this. They'll look at bringing in first time guests and they'll look at it in terms of customer acquisition, and they'll figure out how much it costs to bring in on average new first time guests, and they'll try and drive that number down, and they'll make sure that they budget appropriately in order to get the number of first time guests in. And then they'll look at their transition rate from first time guest to second time guest. They'll look at the bounce rate between the two of them. How often do we get first time guests and then they disappear? How often do we have second time guests and then they disappear? And they track all of those different things. And for a hyper systematic individual, that might be a way of working through the congregation's love for the church, but it just doesn't seem terribly organic to me. It seems a little...
this is kind of like, and I guess like I've simplified my views on, not simplified, and it's not even lowered my views or whatever, but I've embraced success differently. Because here's the deal, like, say like, okay, like for example, we had a new family come, and they've been coming for a month, and they connect in, but I had 3 families that came in and didn't get connected in the same amount of time. So I had say 3 families didn't stay, but 1 did. I'm rejoicing in that 1 family that stayed. Yeah. And I'm not, and while, are there things that we could have done better that could have helped the other people say, maybe, maybe not, we always try to be better. You never know. Like, you can't really tell, but because like those that do stay, like for example, they'll say, I had a guy that came 2 weeks ago, an older gentleman, really nice guy, and had coffee with him that week, and I try to do that. If you come, a gentleman, I'll hang out with you, typically, if it's like the husband of the family, like, hey, you want to go grab a bite to eat or go get some coffee? And I'll do that, meet with him and everything. And he was like, your church is really friendly. Because I've been to churches where people, like the pastor walked right by me and just like he saw me, turned and walked the other way. I was like, no, man, I understand. I said, I'm sorry about that. I said, if it makes you feel any better, like it's happened to me before too, where I've gone to another church and like they've seen me and the big old beard and they turn and walk the other way because they think I'm homeless.
Yeah.
And
Amish.
Amish. And I had another one. I got facially profiled again. I can't remember what I was called though. It was something like that. But anyways, he something like that. Or I had somebody that said, hey, because like they'll say, what we like about your church, and they'll say that, hey, your church is really friendly. Like I was welcome in your church, and I appreciate that so much. Or like the guy would be like, I had somebody that said, you know what, man, you're preaching. Like I've not heard anybody preach like actual, like just say it the way you said it, because, and here's the thing, like I think in my area and where we're at around here, I'm a pretty, straightforward preacher. I don't sugarcoat things. I just come right out and I say it, like if you were in this area, you would be like, your preaching would be a lot more difficult. I think mine's difficult in the area, not because that I'm a difficult preacher, but I think it's the area that I'm in. The play. I seriously
what do
think
you
that's
mean?
what it is.
Just
Not so
stylistically, you're
stylistically
different stylistically than
and
some of the other folks
content.
around.
Yeah, and content wise, like I guess like what it was said to me was like, hey man, I really appreciate that because I'm the guy that'll say sin is sin, stop sinning, and like I'm even talking about that now, we're talking about holiness, and I just come right out and I'm like, yeah, we do this stupid stuff and there's a lot of preachers that what do they preach about? They preach about health, wealth, prosperity gospel type crap like that.
Motivational speakers, man. Life coaches
you want to breathe as much as you want to succeed, then you're gonna breathe. Oh, did I get that backwards? Did I get that backwards?
Know. Whatever.
I don't care. Who cares?
Welcome to intermission. Yeah, intermission.
Israel got called a whore by God repeatedly.
You said it?
Oh yeah. And then
Good job.
And then I say, and you guys are just like Israel.
I'm so proud of you.
You understand what I'm... Yeah. Wait a second. Now, I include myself in all that. Because we're all the same way.
I just want to clarify, I'm a whore just like all of you.
Just like all of you.
That's basically what you said. Oh, I love you so much.
Because we're pointing out that we're all idolatrous. We all place ourselves before God. I think, was it Spurgeon who said that the human heart is a factory for idols? I think it was Spurgeon who said that. But we all do that, and we have to constantly be on guard about it. But man, it's like this sermon series is demotivational speaking. It is definitely the other direction. So what I'm doing in order to make it so that way everybody leaves on a positive note, because what I'm doing, I'm trying to make a U out of each sermon. Make a U. You're starting here, and you're probably feeling all right about yourself. After all, you did make it to church this Sunday. Well, I want to make you feel maybe. I want you to feel like a total dirtbag by the time I'm about halfway through my sermon, and then I try and tick up a little bit. So I'm having to break up the way we're reading through, because we're going to read through the entire book. Like every word of that book's going to be read by the end of the series, and we're doing it in 7 weeks, so that's pretty quick. Yeah. Okay. For doing that. But I'm having to break it up. We're not reading it straight through, because if you did it straight through without sort of going back, then there's no upswing, because Hosea gets depressing for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then there doesn't talk back about the positive stuff until like the very end, and also in chapter 2 and 3. So what I'm doing is we're going through a section, and then I'm doing 2 or 3 verses at the end of chapter 2 or the beginning of chapter 3. And so that way it's a U. Start off, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself since you made it to church. Oh, but you're a whore. And then back up.
But see, the thing is, it would be like, it's one of those, but here's the thing about the you, okay? Mm-hmm. Like, if you were to say you're gonna bring them in a circle, so you're like, okay, you feel good about yourself at the beginning, you go all the way around, and you get halfway through, and you're a whore, and then you get all the way back to the beginning, you feel totally great about yourself, totally again. But with the you start here, you feel great about yourself, you get down to the bottom, you're a whore, and then you get back up to the top, and you're like, you feel better about yourself, but you're still a whore. You still
know what you are, right?
Yeah.
And that's the tricky thing about the Christian message, because if you're not delivering to people the fact that they are sinners in need of salvation, then you're not giving them the gospel. So if you go to the hyper motivational guys who are all happy good times and all that sort of stuff, they're not preaching the whole gospel, because they're not letting you know that you are in rebellion to God if you're outside of Christ.
Yeah.
And you have to communicate that. It's very evangelical.
Okay,
Calling
I have a
people
question for you. All right.
church.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. All right, I was shared a sermon. Now, I haven't listened to this sermon yet, so I don't know the whole context, all right? But I want to share it with you because this brings up a very good thing. Like I'm using this in my sermon this week because we're talking about confession. Okay, that's what we're talking about.
Are we going to encourage people to confess their sins?
Protestant confession
publicly. Well, we should be confessing to one another. That's a biblical thing.
Yeah, that is biblical. And so, hold on, let me see if I can find it here. So it was like a sermon, and the title of the sermon. Let me see if I can find just the title of the sermon here. It was this guy, and he said, "Let's not sacrifice people on the altar of truth." Now,
what?
Let's not sacrifice people on the altar of truth. All right, now think about that for a second. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear that?
When I hear somebody say that,
let's not sacrifice people on the altar of truth. So, like, don't share, like, like making people, because like I said, I have not listened to this sermon yet, so I don't know what it even said. Yeah. So,
my guess.
Right, here. Let me read this quote. Ready?
Oh.
All right. Church.
Yeah.
We are sacrificing people on the altar of truth. And it needs to stop. We want to be right more than we want to love. We want to win the argument more than we want to win people to Christ. We use truth as a weapon to murder people, and it needs to stop.
My guess would be that just hearing the title, "Stop Sacrificing People on the Altar of Truth," given the context of, American society right now, my guess would be that it is about the Bible's clearly stated sexual ethics in comparison to our society's sexual ethics, and the tendency of Christians to be militant towards people who don't practice Christian sexual ethics, particularly homosexuals or transgendered folks and all that sort of stuff. And my guess would be that that's what the sermon's about, is we need to make sure that we are effectively loving people and not allow our understanding of their sinful behaviors to detract us from loving them. Mm-hmm. That would be my guess of what it's about. Okay. I would be careful about using that language, though, because it's such a tightrope. Because there's a lot of pressure on church leaders today to sort of sit back and not participate in the cultural question about sexual ethics and family ethics and Christian morality.
Yeah.
And all that stuff is there's a lot of folks who are trying to redefine that. And it's when you use language like that, you got to be real. I would be hesitant. I wouldn't word it that way.
Yeah. I think it's one of those kind of, because then I remember, who was it? I want to say it was Bob Russell or something like that. And it was kind of controversial at the time, but he basically said, when we aren't reaching out to people out in the community, when we're just focused solely on ourselves, we're basically condemning people to hell. We're telling them to go to hell. You're telling people to go to hell, And so what I think it kind of because this sermon it's all cultural. He's talking about just culture in general, I think. Mm-hmm. And when I think about just even that one quote right there, I think a little bit about someone like a J.D. Hall, and his because I've been listening to him,
J.D.
and
he's funny.
He is funny. Is funny.
He's got some good stuff too. Some of his stuff is
he does. No, I do. But I think it's one of those kind of things where when you listen to him a little bit, and I'm going to say it this way, he's mean to people that consider themselves Christians. It's really who he's going after. All right, so it kind of takes out of the context, but at the same time, he's very aggressive. Like, you're sitting there going, yeah, it's kind of like, it's not really like, and I get like the point I'm getting from this, and I'm going to watch probably this tomorrow, but it's basically the idea is that like I think we can say truth and say it in a loving way. Yeah. Like I wanted to, like, and this is the point that I make in my sermon, because I was told, by someone like, listen, you talk too much about sin. I've told you this before, right? Talk too much about sin.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this before. And I'm like, we're in church, man. And then they would be like, I'm like, we're in church. Of course we're talking about sin. But no, man, when you call people sinners,
hurts your feelings.
It hurts. Yeah, people don't like being called sinners. I'm like, yeah, I know that. I'm not saying anybody likes to be called a sinner. And they're like, and it's the idea, like, you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. You've heard that saying, right?
Yeah, I've heard it.
And you know how stupid that is? In addition, do you know how wrong that is? Because the truth is, you actually catch more flies with vinegar. Like it's a Mythbuster type thing. Like, you actually, and I'm like, and I'm sitting here going to myself, I'm like I think about that, I'm like, well, yeah, people don't want to be told this, but actually, I think people want to know the truth. Like, I think, for me, I want to know the truth. Like, I don't want to go to my doctor and he says, I don't want to walk into my doctor and he looks at me and goes, hey, everything's going fine. You're doing fantastic, Justin. When in truth, he looks at me and goes, your blood pressure's through the roof and you're too fat. Like, I think I need to know where I stand. Truth says that. And even though it might hurt my feelings, and and he goes, you're a little too fat, Justin. I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. I don't like it. And I don't like to be told that I'm too fat. But, I'm like, well, I probably should get on the treadmill a little bit more. Because it's just one of those kind of things. You're like, I think we want, that whole idea of you catch more flies with vinegar. I mean, we're not trying to catch flies here and things like that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we need some more truth.
Everybody knows when you're pulling punches. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the whole, if you're soft pedaling something that's explicit in the text during your sermon, everyone's going to know that. And they will be offended if you tell them the truth and it rubs them the wrong way. But they'll also be offended if you soft pedal the thing that's explicit in the text. Mm-hmm. So what is your responsibility? Your responsibility is just to communicate the truth as it's been shared through the years with us in Scripture. That's the job.
Yeah.
Look, the whole idea that you are, as the minister, are responsible for convincing people, for being persuasive and arguing them into the church, whether it's through your use of rhetoric or your use of touching their emotions or your use of logic and reasoning, that's a faulty understanding of how people come to Christ, I think. I mean, the Lord draws his people to himself. He does that. He does it by means of the preached word. And because he does it by the means of the preached word, we have a responsibility to do our very best at preaching the word. That's our responsibility. But we are not responsible for what happens in that individual's heart.
Yeah.
The Lord will draw them, or he will not, based on his divine decree, which has already been articulated. So, of course, that's a soteriological difference that you and I might have. I don't know. We haven't talked about that in 6 or 7 years. So,
or 6 or 7 months.
6 or 7 years, 6 or 7 months. I don't know when we talked about it last. Anyway,
we talk about everything. So,
yeah, I know, right? I could just go back and listen through the episodes and figure out, we talked about this 3 weeks ago.
I forget what we talk about the next day. And you remember everything. Like, what did we talk? You're like, this one was really funny. I'm like, it was? What in the world did I say? Do
you know, when I tell you that, it's while I'm listening to it and editing it. So it's not like I remember.
Okay. Yeah,
like, okay. So if you ever get a text like, man, this one, you said something really funny here. That's because I just listened to it. So.
Okay. All right. So, like, basically, I say all of that because, and you know what? I might listen to this sermon. I'm like, no, this guy's spot on. I understand what he's saying, and here's the thing. And I'll clarify this. That's a quote. We don't know what he said before, and we don't know what he said after. Change in the context changes everything. And so he could be spot on, because I sit here and think to myself, like, I'm going to tell you a sin. I'm going to tell you that you're a sinner. I'll say it to your face, but I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to be a jerk about it. I'm not even going to be disrespectful about it. Like, I'm going to be sitting with you in your company, drinking coffee or just talking about life in general. I'm going to be your friend. I'm going to be your brother in Christ. And then I'm going to be like, yeah, man, you're a sinner.
It's
Welcome
not
to
like
the
you're
club.
telling them something they don't know.
It's not like I'm telling them something that God hasn't said, and because like the passage I'm using is 1 John chapter 1, 6 through 10. I'm using that passage. And what he says is like, hey, you're a sinner. And if you say you're not a sinner, then not only you're a sinner, but you're a lying sinner. You're just a dirty, rotten, lying, sinning liar is what you are. So I'm like,
what is it? The
like,
love
we
of
don't
God
like being
isn't in
called.
you? That's
Yeah. You're not walking in the light. That stuff, like if you say you're in the light, but you're not walking in the light, guess what? You're not in the light. And so it's one of those kind of things because like that's not like feel good that's not feel good preaching, but it is truth. And I think that's the thing. We need more truth so that we can, because like that, like then we know how to respond. We know what to do. We know what needs to happen in a sense. We know what's going on in our lives. Like if you go to work and you're like the boss is always like, hey, Martin, right on, spot on job. And then 3 weeks later he fires you and you're like, dude, every day you've told me spot on that I'm doing a good job. Like, well, actually you kind of sucked and you're stupid. And you're rarely on time and you have a bushy beard and it gets food in it. And it's just absolutely disgusting. You're just like, dude, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that? And so like I view that same thing when it comes to, truth in scripture and truth of our standing, of who we are. And, like I guess it was kind of put, we're Christian, we've come to Christ, but we still struggle, and that's what it's saying. You're still gonna sin. And what do you do when you sin?
You repent and confess.
You confess. You say, I'm a sinner, and you agree with what God is saying. God's like, hey, you're a sinner. And you're like, you're right, I am a sinner. And I sin by greed. I'm looking at, what my buddy has, and they got this new house, and I'm like sitting in my house, and I'm just like, my house is kind of crappy, and that house is really freaking nice. And I'm like, kind of getting like, or I'm like holding my money. I'm not giving. I'm a little bit greedy, or I'm like, I'm lusting. I'm like, oh, hello, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm doing. And you're confessing. You're saying, yeah. So pretty much my sermon for Sunday. So if you're listening to podcasts, you get a preview.
They're gonna be up to date. They can take some notes, and then that way they're gonna be caught up already. They're gonna be
You can just chill out in church. You don't have to take notes. So
you're good to be volunteering. So
yeah,
it's so funny these days where people think for some reason that you're being unloving if you tell people biblical truth, when that is the most loving thing that you could possibly do for them. You're not going to be telling them things that make them happy, but you'll be telling them biblical truth, and that is as loving as it gets. Being willing to... Look, who loves you more? Your friend who's just always happy and there for the good times, but leaves when all of a sudden things get heavy and you're talking about your parents who are passing away and all that sort of stuff? Or is it your friends who stick with you through those tough times and are willing to stand up there and tell you, hey man, you're messing this up. You need to get it together. You know who your real friend is. It's the one who tells you the truth.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing for the preacher. The preacher who really cares about you. The minister who really loves you and really wants to help you as a part of the congregation, as a part of the church, draw closer to your groom, Christ. The one who really wants to do that is going to articulate to you the truth. and you won't always like it. But if that helps you to draw closer to Christ, then they've done their job, and they've been successful in ministry. There you go. So, right back around.
But look at that. Yeah, now we feel good about ourselves, and we're not whores anymore. So
that's right. A perfect circle.
It's a perfect circle. So
No. It's not, because we're not in the exact same place, so it's a you. It's a you.
It's a you. It's definitely a you.
Yeah.
So, Phil, now that we've got that, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the discussion, okay?
I said whore like 30 times in the sermon. I mean, it's whore this, whore that, whore everything. Whore.
Whore.